Hey, it's Juck. At number one, the most beautiful uniform in all of sport. If they brought back the gray stripes, this thing is so far out in front of everybody, you can't touch it. We are not bemoaning the noon kickoff. We are now owning it. It's a badge of honor. We're the lunatic fringe that defines our coach's legacy when it comes to this game. They don't get to define that outside the family. We're cut from a different cloth for Ohioans. Do I want Michigan to beat Oklahoma? No way in hell. I don't know what world I'm living in. This is insane to me. And if you saw my outburst, I apologize. It's showtime now. And welcome into Juck on Bucks early on a Tuesday morning. Appreciate y'all so much for joining me. The Buckeyes got Rutgers this week. I don't think any of the talk is going to be about Rutgers this week here on this show, though I did read somewhere in the Ohio State sphere that Rutgers has three of the best wide receivers in the Big Ten. Ohio State's a 32-point favorite, so I'm going to guess I don't need to be too awfully concerned about those three wide receivers that Rutgers has. The Ohio State recruiting class of 2026, another ridiculous weekend, and some folks being really disingenuous about this thing, man. Really disingenuous. We'll hit on that today. Won't be a super long show, but I got some things to say. The Rivals updated on 300. It's not on 300 anymore. It used to be the on 300. Now, since On3 bought Rivals or merged with Rivals, now it's just the Rivals 300. We have got some unbelievable new rankings as it pertains to Ohio State. And we have got, if you fancy yourself a supporter of the Big Ten or just kind of anti-Southern football, I have got some ridiculous news to tell you about the rankings that I have never seen in my life. Speaking of the Big Ten, the Big Ten's money grab, the private equity deal that is technically not private equity, apparently. And I got to be honest, this thing is such a snooze fest to me that I don't got enough energy to ask questions about it or read through it too much. All I know are the pertinent details, and the pertinent details, or the biggest one to me, is you have got money coming in, you've got tiers, and you've got extending the grant of rights to 2046. And that means you are locked in with everybody in the Big Ten till 2046. Ohio State gets a bigger piece of the pie. What they're giving up is 10% of a company that they're forming that's going to be Big Ten Enterprises. And everybody will reap the rewards. Doesn't sound like there is a ton of drawback. They give up a minimal amount of control of Big Ten Enterprises. However, you give up your autonomy and extend it to 2046. As you know, Michigan and USC has been against this. Ironically, USC is against this thing because they are not in the top tier with Ohio State, Michigan, and Penn State. They're in the second tier with USC and Oregon, and that makes them feel less than. So because of that, the University of Spoiled Children is not in on this. Michigan, on the other hand, Michigan doesn't like giving up any control, doesn't think they should be giving up any control, and you can't blame them. They also don't want to extend that grant of rights to 2046, and I don't either. I don't think this is smart for Ohio State to do that. Obviously, if you do that, you could say on one hand, like, well, you don't want, something big in college football to happen without you. Well, it can't, because now USC, Ohio State, Nebraska, Michigan, Penn State, Oregon are all locked here. So a super conference isn't starting without any of those programs, right? So nobody can walk out on you. The people that benefit most from this are the ones at the bottom of the conference. But it is not going to happen right now because Michigan, through their hissy fit, took their stance, and shame on anybody for making me agree with them on this particular stance, especially this time of year. The vote has been delayed. It's off the table for now. They were trying to play hardball with Michigan, and they caved. They essentially caved. It's off the table right now. So Michigan wins this round. I'm sure it'll come back. But to me, man, extending that grant of rights to 2046 is a mistake. It's a mistake. And what do you get out of it? Some money. you can make a whole lot of money with Ohio State and what you've got without you gain nothing by extending that grant of rights. The people that gain from that grant of rights are the 6 or 7 cellar dwellers at the bottom of the Big Ten. They're the ones that gain everything. And you can say, well, Ohio State gets a bigger piece of the pie. That's what they're giving you. Well, that's the bare minimum. The bottom line is they need to hold on to Ohio State and the teams at the top, or else they're totally worthless. And I check their recruiting rankings. See, here's the thing. They aren't investing the money in football still. They still aren't. And in an era where Ohio State is losing recruits to North Carolina and Indiana, it proves to us that anybody can recruit. But there are programs in the Big Ten that are taking all that TV money off the backs of the big programs, and they aren't reinvesting it trying to get better. And as a result, we have these incredibly imbalanced schedules where the bottom of the conference can't compete at all with the top of the conference. And it makes for a dreadful experience at times, like we're just going through just now. 5 games as 30-plus point favorites. Man, that should never happen. Obviously, you're going to have discrepancies in an 18-game schedule, but this year, the Buckeyes did not get to play any of the contenders outside of Michigan. That's it. We play one single real contender. USC, Iowa, not even like those second-tier contenders. Oregon, no. Indiana, no. Nobody. Penn State, we know what happened there. All of those programs we don't get to play because of this 18-game schedule that we have, or the 18-team conference that we have now. Is it best for Ohio State to be in this conference? Have you ever thought of what a super conference would look like? Like, let's say, for instance, Alabama, Georgia, Oklahoma, LSU, Oregon, Auburn, Ohio State, Michigan, Penn State, Utah, BYU, Florida State, Clemson, all the football schools. Think of the 30 top football schools and picture what that would look like. Now, picture what your schedule looks like week in and week out. Well, let's say you got 28 of those teams, 30 of them. We'll call it 30 teams. That's 15 games a week. Out of those 15 games, how many of those games each week would be, whoa, that's a banger? At least 7? At least half of them are going to be bangers. That's 7 bangers in one weekend. How many bangers do we get in one weekend now? 3, if we're lucky, with the whole country? I feel like this is now the inevitability. I wish we could rewind the clock and go back to conferences. I would like to go back to the Big Ten with the little 11 signal. That was a really nice time in the Big Ten. Unfortunately, things aren't that way anymore. And it's not just that they've not gotten any better. It's that Ohio State as a program the gap has widened, right? And we'll see. Maybe it does shrink a little bit in the Big Ten. It could if they spent more money at the bottom of the conference, but they won't. And that's why Michigan has the absolute right approach on this thing. And I'm happy that it's been tabled because I want Ohio State to have flexibility. I want them to have flexibility to do whatever the hell it is they want to do. And when you are someone who is in charge, there is, especially if you're new on the job, there's big advantages to getting a big windfall of money. You can sure make yourself look like you're doing a heck of a good job if you got a lot of money to fix things, build things, spend on things to, you look like the guy, man. You're the guy that's getting stuff done at the expense of signing away your rights till 2046 to be able to have any independence. And Ohio State, to be clear, is, one of the programs in this country that could be a full-blown independent, as could Michigan. And the two of them could even do some damage in some particular way if they wanted to. But nonetheless, Michigan has stalled this thing, and I'm happy that they have. We'll see if they can continue to try to sway some guys with them. Anyway, friends, as I said, early on a Tuesday morning, and we've got Ryan Day today. And I'm sitting here thinking, How many questions will be asked of Ryan Day today about the Rutgers game? I'm doubting many. We are now, 12 days away from the game, from the trip to Ann Arbor. And I'm curious to see Ryan Day's demeanor today. Obviously, there's going to be a lot of questions about Jeremiah, about Carnell. I've talked to some people about Jeremiah, about his limp, and I got some information on that. But I kind of want to go back to just kind of breaking down what was this. I know there's a lot of people that are nervous about this. I'm no longer nervous about this. I mean, I wasn't super nervous to begin with, but I'm no longer very nervous at all. But when we talk about the timeline here, you have Carnell going to the Purdue game, traveling to the Purdue game, and in warmups, he apparently, we're told, he tweaked something in warmups or was tight in warmups, and he doesn't play. So he doesn't play. We noticed that on the field. He wasn't on the injury report, availability report, as they call it, and he doesn't play. And then we're all assuming if he's tight, okay, well, that means surely he's back for the UCLA game. And then we hear rumors just circulating very quickly on Saturday morning, Friday night, really, that not only is Carnell not going to be playing against UCLA, but that we could expect a potential JSN situation where he's shutting it down. And I was just thinking about that. Like, there's going to be a time where we are going to see a college football player treat the playoffs like we are used to seeing college football players treat bowl games of no consequence. There will be that time where we will see that incredibly greedy kid, and you're going to have a bunch of people come out and say, it's smart. He's got to protect himself. You're going to hear that. You're going to hear people say that. It's what happened with bowl games. What's meaningless? Who cares? There will be people who say that. The attitude on bowl games wasn't that they were meaningless until kids started doing, or people started calling them meaningless, and then kids started doing that. And then everybody just said, well, yeah, they're meaningless. Now they don't even play. Chain reaction. I firmly believe we will see kids sit out of these playoffs. Absolutely do. There will be money issues. They'll want more money for them. Like we already heard it last year. It was already leaking last year, year number one, out of Tennessee. And it's going to happen more and more, and we're going to see somebody do it. Now, the thing is, are we going to see that trend start at Ohio State under Ryan Day? Hell no. Hell no, we're not. And that's why there is there was never a moment where I was concerned that Carnell Tate may be shutting it down because it was clearly on a serious injury, or he wouldn't have traveled to the Purdue game, right? Wouldn't travel to it. Additionally, Carnell Tate has room to improve his draft stock. He's not a top 10 pick, he's a first rounder, but if he goes and balls out in the postseason against the best of the best in the country on the grandest stage, he's up higher and higher and higher, and each spot in the first round is a lot more money. And it's worth the risk as a wide receiver on top of it, right? So no, not an issue there. But when you then hear Saturday morning that, Jeremiah is also on the injury report and he's questionable. All right, now I can totally understand why people are like, wait a minute, this doesn't feel right. Something feels off here. So when Jeremiah was on that report, I was excited. Because we got to see Milan, got to see Quincy, got to see Bryson Rogers. That's what I'm thinking. And then all of a sudden we see Jeremiah warming up, and Jeremiah looks great in warm-ups. Okay, he's clearly fine. Why is he on the availability report? Well, then he plays first half, 40 yards, 4 receptions, looks fantastic, makes one of the most grown man one-handed catches you'll ever see. And after that, let's say if it was a game and it was the end of the game, we would no longer have seen him, right? Let's say that was the end of the game. In this particular instance, they go in at halftime and then they come out. Now, we've not seen what Jeremiah looks like and how he moves 40 minutes after the previous couple of games. So he comes out and he's on the sideline and he is moving in a very funny way. I'm sure most of you have seen the video of him heading up the tunnel with CJ Barnett and RJ Day. If you haven't, I'll play that here for you. But to me, the limp on the sideline looks different than the one of him hobbling up the tunnel. Like the sideline limp video was like real choppy, short steps. And this one, like a long swing of the leg. Maybe I'm looking too much into this. I'm sure we're all looking too much into the actual video footage of this. But what if this is just what he's looked like the last couple of weeks after the game? What if he is taking a shot to numb some pain and playing through something that clearly has, that they've deemed can't get any worse, can't do any more damage on it, just got to wait for it to heal? There's a lot of what ifs here. I guess the point is, when Ryan Day comes in the press conference afterwards and he says that Jeremiah has been dealing with this, right? Been dealing with a nagging issue. That's what he said, a nagging issue. I guess number one, why does he play if he's dealing with a nagging issue against UCLA? Well, the only reason he would play if he was dealing with a nagging issue against UCLA is if there was no way it could get any worse, or there was no way that this could delay its healing, right? And we didn't see him in the game get hurt, and we didn't see him go to the medical tent, so it had to have happened before the game. But then I just got to question why play him. Why would you play him? I don't understand that. I'm confused about that. I am confused about that. However, I am not worried moving forward. Number one, from the time that game ended to the time the Michigan game starts, he's got 2 weeks. 2 weeks to chill. Carnell, on the other hand, if he doesn't play against Rutgers, we're talking no game against Purdue, no game against UCLA, no game against Rutgers. It's 3 games of rest for him before he plays again. So 3 for him, 2 full weeks for JJ. And that's just hopefully the way it's going to be. You don't need him. Certainly Julian could use some work with those other guys. And, unfortunately Rutgers has these 3 amazing wide receivers. So who knows, man, maybe they'll jump up and get you. But I talked to somebody and the answer I got was, we have nothing to worry about. Everybody's dinged up, including Jeremiah. So he's dinged up. Everybody's dinged up. And I think what we saw Jeremiah play in that play in the first half, that's him playing through whatever the injury is or whatever the nagging issue is that we saw resulted in him walking like that. Was he maybe doing an exaggerated walk? Maybe they put a neoprene sleeve on at halftime. Maybe the shot was wearing off. I don't know, man. I don't know. It's really hard to figure this out, but it is scary nonetheless. So, I just wanted to talk about it and share with you what I had heard, but I'm not worried about it. I'm not worried about it at all. I do agree though, with the people who think like, this offense, it was disturbing almost that let's put it this way. I think there are a lot of people, I know there are a lot of people who wanted to see Mylan Graham take over for Brandon Innes. And we heard a couple weeks ago, Ryan Day say that Mylan Graham has been practicing better lately. And that, when I heard it, was like ding, 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 ding. And that is usually, and basically what he's saying there is he was not practicing well. Now he's practicing better. Well, has he continued to practice better? This is the same exact kind of conversation he had about Jelani Thurman when everybody was pushing to see more Jelani Thurman spring of 2024. Of course, we saw relatively no Jelani Thurman in 2024, a little bit here and there. And we haven't seen a ton of Jelani Thurman this year either. And when I saw Mylan Graham out there, man, 7 targets, 3 receptions. This is after that terrible drop right in the numbers the week before. It just strikes me like, man, do you remember all the people calling out Brandon Innes, saying they wanted to see Mylan Graham? And you can explain it away that Mylan just had, one rough day. I think that it is pretty evident that he is not where he needs to be a starter and anything near a starter in his wide receiver development. He looks like obviously he's a 5-star athlete. He's not a 5-star wide receiver right now. He's not there yet. He's got a long way to go. It seems like another year to go of working with Hart in the system to learn how to be that kind of guy. And the Garrett Wilson comparisons, for instance, Garrett day one makes some of those catches that Mylan didn't catch. Let's be honest here. Garrett walked in the building making those electric catches already. And he wasn't going 3 for 7 with Julian saying his first year. Wouldn't have happened. So athletically, yeah, there's a whole lot of similarities there. Wide receiver skills, ball skills, not there yet. Not there yet. And, obviously we'll talk plenty about this, later on in the week, I'm sure, this is who's going to start here this week. Again, I would imagine. And who knows what, Ryan Day's not going to let us in on that now. He's not going to let Greg Schiano know that those two are sitting out. He'll play with it, but I think we're going to see Brandon Innes, Mylan Graham, Bryson Rogers, who, by the way, both of them lined up wide 90% of their snaps and just had a couple in the slot, which is interesting because Bryson Rogers is a slot guy. What they could have done is put Bryson in the slot and played Quincy Porter more, who only ended up playing like 9 snaps in the game. And I was hoping to see more Quincy because Quincy actually looks like he's further along in wide receiver development. Phil Bell played 3 snaps. Like to see a little more Phil if we could too. But anyway, that's that with those wide receivers. Now I've got one more thing I want to talk about today before I go start getting ready here. Rivals on 300. Now, if you have not been keeping up with the recruiting videos that I've been putting out, Ohio State had another unbelievable weekend where they got a 2027 commit and a top 100 overall prospect, 6'3", 200-pound safety, Eli Johnson out of Texas. He was Matt Guerreri's number 1 target and one of his top 3 targets. Let's just say it like that. Now, this is Matt Guerreri's 3rd cycle. And each year he has gotten one of his top 3 targets, which is ridiculous. Fahim Delane, then he comes back with Blaine Bradford and gets Simeon Caldwell, who literally those are 2 of his top 3 targets. And then in this cycle, Eli Johnson, Jaquan Snell were his top 2 targets. Jaquan Snell just committed to Texas A&M. He got Eli Johnson. So 3 years, he got 1, 2, and 1 of his top 3 targets, which is just unbelievably fantastic. A guy that I certainly did not have high hopes would be a great recruiter coming from Duke and Indiana. And just, I don't want to say I prejudged him, but I certainly did. Just the look of him and listening to him talk. How's this guy going to do? Well, I talked to Deshaun Stewart shortly after he met McGarry, and he was blown away by him. And Deshaun Stewart, I think, is someone in the class of 2025. We don't talk about him much. I think he's going to be a dude at some point. He's just, he's on a couple-year plan to develop, but he's going to be a dude. Huge personality. Everybody loves him. Super skilled kid who has corner skills, played corner in high school, but they brought him in to be a safety because he's a hitter. And Guerreri lands Eli. Then Keenan flips Nick Latour. Nick Latour, the tight end I wanted. Now, Nick Latour, a guy we're going to talk about as well in these rankings. And of course, Larry gets his top defensive end target here later on in the cycle. And that's Trey Quinn, the Clemson decommit, keeps him from even entertaining the officials that he had set up with Tennessee and Texas that were coming after this Ohio State one. Got him to commit. Forget those guys. I'm staying here. I'm staying at Ohio State, and that is excellent. So now, Nick Latour, when I did that video, Nick Latour, who I consider, and you should watch it. If you love the Jake Cook story last year, you should watch that one. Nick Latour, this year's Jake Cook. This year, this is the kid that the Ohio State offer meant everything to him. So Nick Latour was the 1,330th ranked prospect when I did that video yesterday. Now, what did they do? They did what they should do. They did what they should do. It's clear when a kid is ranked like that and a program like Ohio State offers him, all right, we didn't look at this guy. Let's actually look at him. When a lot of these 3-stars, they just slot him and they've never even reviewed him until they see a program grab him and they say, okay, let's take a look at him. They should have already done that when he committed to Louisville, but they clearly didn't. So they look at him, they evaluate him, and they say, oh, shoot, we missed one. And Nick Latour is now a 4-star top 300 player. He's a blue chipper, baby. So that isn't even a 3-star Ohio kid. That's a legit. And this is what me and Mark were talking about in the commit video. This is not just some like charity case Ohio kid. He is now a blue chipper, and he will raise the recruiting ranking of this class. So that is fantastic news. Nick was super stoked about it, and I love that for him. Like, talk about excellent days, back-to-back days. Ohio State, 4-star. Thank you very much. Life is looking good for young Nick. Now, as I looked through all the new 5-stars, and we had some comings, we had some goings. Braylon Womack, no longer a 5-star. So sad for Braylon, who is about to flip to Texas A&M, by the way. But here's what I came up with. The Big Ten versus, and I went like this. I went, all right, let's say the Big Ten, and let's add in with the Big Ten and just kind of do a little Doug and Bill on this. And I added in West Virginia with them. I added in Notre Dame, and I asked Doug, where does Utah go to? Because I got a 5-star. He says absolutely the North. So, all right. So Doug told me Utah belongs to the North. So when I do that, and then I do all the Southern schools, all the SEC schools, they also get a couple 5-stars that are committed to Miami as well as Houston. And when we tally that up, North versus South, we have 19 5-stars committed to the North and 13 committed to the South. Now, I probably should have gone through and jotted down how many of these kids are from the North versus from the South, and I guess I'll do that now that I'm sitting here talking to you. But that is the lopsided direction that we usually see this going the other way. That is something right there. That is really something. By the way, Marcus Freeman in Notre Dame, 6 5-stars, bud. You believe that? 6 5-stars. Ohio State, Michigan, and Notre Dame together have more 5-stars than the entire South. How about that? Now we got to kind of lean on Notre Dame to help us with that one. Buckeyes with 3, and I'm pissed about it. Now I'm happy about it, but I'm also pissed about it. I'll give you the bad news first. Sam Greer, who I think is absolutely one of the best left tackles in the country, had moved up to the 14th ranked position. And in this updated ranking, remember 4-star or 5th star goes to number 32. It's how many first round draft picks there are. He is the 33rd ranked player, one flipping position outside of 5-star rank. So I'm furious about that. However, Chris Henry Jr. has been moved back up to the number 1 wide receiver in the country. So he's back up to number 1 wide receiver, 5th star. Kari Wilder remains number 1 defensive lineman in the country, 5-star. And Jay Timmons, the new flip we just got from Florida State, not only was he their number 2 cornerback and now is their number 1 cornerback and a 5-star, but Charles Power, the director of scouting at Rivals, a very respected guy, and I respect him a lot. I always love when he writes a little more about a prospect. He said that pound for pound, Jay Timmons might be his pick for the very best player in this class. Now, how about that for some high praise? That is tremendous. And we're talking about 3 extremely important positions when we talk about Kari, Chris Henry Jr., and Jay Timmons. I mean, it doesn't get much more important than that outside of what? A left tackle. Sam Greer sitting at number 33, who still has time to move inside that. You literally might get 4 or 5 stars at the 4 most important positions outside of quarterback, which would just be something. Now, moving along to some other guys that got some bumps in the action. A lot of these Ohio State players had a little movement here and there. Favor Key. Favor dropped down because Favor was injured, but he remains in the top 300. And, that's to be expected. I honestly thought Favor was a little overrated in those rankings anyway, but he's a top 300 kid still, so we feel good about that. Then you have got Jordan Thomas and Legend Bay. They are up to I think 125, 150. They're both in the top 150. Jordan was there. Legend was not there. So Legend moved up into the top 150. And then we've got 2 targets that we're after that we've been talking about. And I believe that we are going to get both of them, to be quite honest. The first is CJ Bronaugh, who I've thought for a while now, Bucks were going to nail this down. He is the corner out of Windermere, Florida. He is now the number 7 corner in the class. And that is 1 spot above Albert Hill, which ought to make you smile. So you got the number 1 corner, potentially the number 7 corner in CJ Bronaugh, and the number 20 corner in Jordan Thomas, who is Ohio State's number 1 corner. So now it becomes an excellent cornerback class if you get, it already is, but if you get CJ Bronaugh, you got 2 top 10 corners in the class, including the number 1. And Jordan. That's crazy. That's crazy. That's wonderful. And I think they're going to get him, man. I think they're going to get CJ Bronaugh. Then Braxton Rembert. They did the same damn thing they did with Nick. The same thing they did with Nick Latour. They hadn't looked at him really. They went and looked at him, and they have now looked at Braxton Rembert. This is the 6'5" linebacker out of Georgia. And they have given him a proper ranking. And where is he? He is now a 4-star, the number 202 ranked player in the country. So now we're talking about adding 2 more blue chips on top of Nick Latour and Dre Quinn. We're talking about 4 blue chips at the end here. And you know what that does to the class. I will be right back. Let me calculate some numbers. I'll tell you exactly what it'll do to the class. I just paused it. Puts you in 5th place comfortably. So comfortably in 5th place with CJ Bronaugh, with Braxton Rembert. Braxton Rembert going to make his decision in a week after he talks to his family, says his prayers, makes his decision. Wake Forest, and a little extra money, or James Laurinaitis in Ohio State. And CJ Brona makes his decision probably roughly around the same time. Florida, with no coach, go see somebody else, or Ohio State, where I've developed some relationships and I really seem to like it. CJ Brona, going to be a Buckeye. Braxton Rembert, I'm actually a little less sure about him, but I do think he will be a Buckeye. Maybe I got to eat it on those two, but I think they're both going to be Buckeyes. And that will make 10 guys just in this class of 2026. We've seen more. We've seen 3 more. We've seen a total of 13 in the last, actually since November 11th. Since November 11th to today, October 11th to today, we have seen 13 Ohio State commitments. 10 of them, if we get those 2, in this class. And we're not just talking 3-star add-ons. We're talking Legend Bay. These last 4, all blue chippers. It's been quite a ride, man. This has been so exhilarating and so much fun. And I think, I'm going to talk a little bit more about this and what's going on and about these disingenuous arguments that I'm hearing now. We'll talk about them tomorrow. But it's early. I don't like to talk this much, and I've already rambled on for 37. So I'm going to go get ready. I will potentially pop on later on after the press conference. Yeah, probably wait till tomorrow. I don't know. You know what I did last night, guys? I want to tell you. On Buckeye Huddle Primetime, which I am there every Monday and Wednesday at 8 p.m., I took the StreamYard link and I put it in the description, and essentially it's a call-in line. So, but when people come up, I made the box really tiny and I put the emblem over it. So you can call in, your face doesn't have to appear. And a lot of people are funny about that. They don't want their face to appear, but they want to call on the show. So they can call on the show, or if they want me to pull them up, I can pull them up, but you can call in and we can chop it up, talk about some recruiting. So if you want to do that, I'm going to make everyone moving forward like that. When I'm done with my segments, I'll open it up and take some calls. Unless they start sucking. And, it says right there, remember, we're entertaining people here. Nobody wants to hear, nonsense, inside jokes or anything. Nobody wants to hear that. We're entertaining people. If you can dance with me, let's dance. If you want to fight, we can fight. But it's got to be good. It's got to be quality entertainment. You feel me? All right. I'll look forward to feeling you guys later. Have a good one. Check the books out.